I mean, I'm not a Maurice Safer or whatever. Hey, Internet, it looks like we're live. Welcome to the Mattriarchy. I am, of course, Matt Rhys, your host. Matt McGinn is spending time with his family, which is what I'm going to be doing next week, so I shouldn't judge too loud. Joining with me today is Matt Wenger of Dragoon Knight Aldrake, who is here to chat and fill the empty chair. Matt, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me,
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
Nice,
They
just
came
say
in the
hi.
last minute and saved the day.
Yeah, I'm always willing to help out a homie.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, as we get started, I wanted to go ahead and ask some questions here. Hey, we've got viewers, and I just realized I don't have the chat up. So, I'm going to ask a question and then get that going.
Yeah,
Your
it's fine.
story, your webcomic there, is all about a a redneck mystic knight character, kind of a bruiser, right?
Yeah.
Origin, your impetus for creating this character.
Well, I would say he's kind of like Lobo and Conan mixed together, and I like the like super manly, badass heroes, and I feel like we don't have enough of that anymore. So I don't know. I just felt like I was feeling an itch that needed filled by creating that character and pushing him.
And what was uh, your universe is sort of a blend of a fantasy universe with kind of a like diesel punk kind of a thing. But what are that what were the push that allowed you to go with it, directed you that way with its neo modern mishmash of stuff?
Well, I've just always been a huge fan of Japanese role playing games. And it's kind of like a Final Fantasy type of setting where there's monsters and magic and all this medieval stuff, but they also have like modern day technology like cell phones and cars. I always think that that's cool. And you know what? In Japanese stuff, it doesn't have to make sense as long as it's fun. Like that's the only thing they care about. You can sit and watch anime all day, and a lot of this stuff doesn't make any sense, but you're having a good time, so you don't care.
Fair point. Fair point.
I think that a lot of media, especially in the West, takes itself way too seriously, and that's another thing that drags it down. Is just the fact that the creators want to sit around sniffing their own farts all day.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I know I am one of those creators. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to dig into much of our universe of stuff. It's all online, but a lot of it is anyway. We have a ridiculously detailed alternate history that we're rolling out in different stories and different venues, and I definitely feel to take myself too seriously, even when writing comedy. So.
Well, that's okay, as long as you don't go on Twitter and act like that you're the second coming like all these comic pros do. That's what I'm really getting at, is how they start to think they're special.
Yeah,
Entertainers are here to make people happy. You're not there to look down on anybody. And
true.
entertainment is something that you actually don't need. It's something that you choose to have. So if somebody decides to look at your entertainment product in their free time, like really you're the lucky person for them wanting to spend their free time doing that. It's not like that you're selling them food or water or something that they need to live.
That's something we've thought about with our comics a lot too. Like I said, we've been doing our web comics since 2006, right? And
Yeah.
we've had conversations multiple times about, do we want to try to monetize the webcomic and that whole thing. And when it comes down to it, the biggest currency that we get is eyeballs, right? It's people willing to invest their time in, our silly stories about superheroes in high school, and I don't know that I definitely would like to make a little money telling stories, but I am as much, if not more, appreciative for the 5 or 10 fans that we've had that followed us since the beginning, And
Well,
we've had, sometimes we've had more than that, but I mean, as far as like, our faithful fans who are with us, whether we're on hiatus or whether we're not, those guys are kind of a small club.
yeah, you just, as long as you listen to your fans and you keep growing and improving, you'll make a product that people will want to invest in. So used to, you could have Patreon for that, but I don't know how that's going to work anymore. That's kind of falling apart. But I'm sure that there will always be ways that your fans can support you if they like it enough.
Yeah.
So I like that internet model that Patreon started, about how you can pay if you want to, or if you have the extra money. And maybe some people, don't have as much money as others, so like you can chip in for them too if you want.
And one of the things about that, they used to be like, before Patreon was a thing, probably 10 years ago, there were a few of those first tier of webcomics, Mini Arcade and I don't know who else, but they had websites that were built so they had member sections and free sections. But I mean, like the coding on that's a whole thing. You got to hire a person to run something like that. So you got to be making money before you can start making money with that method. And that Patreon kind of bridged that gap in some ways because they already had that code and everything pretty user friendly.
Well, hopefully there will be a viable competitor to Patreon that we can use, because that took care of that easily. Because you could just mark stuff patrons only, and then nobody that wasn't paying could see it. It was really easy.
So one of the things that I find really interesting, and something I want to talk to Matt about when he gets here, is that there is a middle line between science fiction and fantasy. And of course, Matt's working on one very heavy science fiction project, and one very heavy fantasy project. Where do you see as the intersection between those in terms of storytelling?
No, I'm sorry. What? My wife was talking to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt that.
Oh no, it's not. It's not your fault.
What I was saying is, what do you see as the intersection between science fiction and fantasy?
Well, it's whatever you want it to be. The great thing about fantasy is that if somebody asks you, well, how does that work? You're just like, oh, it's magic. You don't have to explain it any more than that. So if you want to bring science fiction into your fantasy, like, yeah, it's magic, dude. And it works in fantasy. I think it's funny, like in Marvel now, like with the Black Panther, they kind of use vibranium to do the same thing that magic does, and it's like, why don't you just have magic? Like, it's getting silly at this point.
And one of the things that's strange about that is magic is already a part of the universe. With Doctor Strange and Hellcat and all those guys.
It's
so you
there.
think that they just plug on it, trigger on it. I mean.
But I like that whenever that somebody tries to get all nerdy and technical, and then you're just like, oh, it's magic. you don't have to elaborate anymore. Yep, magic. Can you explain how that works? Magic.
Well, now there's another school of theory on that. A lot of people really like the idea that magic should have rules. And of course, like places like Harry Potter, even to a lesser extent, Lord of the Rings had certain like boundaries about what magic could do. Um, but what do you think that's a benefit or a detriment to a mythology?
Well, you have to limit it some way or it just gets silly. You know, like if your character has magic powers and it's not limited somehow, then he's just going to be overpowered or she. So it just depends on the story that you're telling. So
So,
All Drake's magic depends on the darkness around him. So if it's a really sunny day, it can damper his mood.
so it's kind of like a wood to the Golden Age Green Lantern then.
Yeah, you got to have some kind of limit. And also, he's dumb, so even if he is like in space and has unlimited magic to work with, he's still limited by his intelligence.
Okay, that's something I gotta stop right there. It's not really common that people design a hero intentionally to not be intelligent, right? You get those guys like Strong Guy from X Factor, who's like middling intelligent. He's just sort of a run of the mill dude who happens to be massively strong. But it's not very often you see somebody point out this guy's kind of dumb.
Oh yeah, well he's just meant to be like this regular guy. Like the point of it is that he's just this redneck heavy metal fan, and he just happens to have magic powers. And it kind of is meant to be part of the humor, you know, because I have a lot of, I guess, kind of like South Parky style humor, like the edgy boy humor, and that's where it comes in. I don't think that Conan or Lobo are ever really that smart either. They're just like these big bruiser guys that bust through everything with their physical prowess, their might.
Yeah, Lobo definitely was never seen as somebody who was overly intelligent. There's sort of a cleverness to Lobo where he kind of like not exactly like it, but you know the story about Alexander the Great and the Gordian knot, right?
Tell
Where
me.
there's that massively complex knot in Gordium, and the priest of Gordium said, "Whoever unties this knot, you know, is the smartest guy and has right to take over us." And the legend was they were able to keep invaders away by presenting them with this puzzle, and nobody could untie this knot. And Alexander went over and just cuts the knot in half with a sword and says, "Now what?" So there was a cleverness about Alexander in that story, and I think Lobo was a similar cleverness where you could find the end run around problems using violence. I don't. I think Conan just saw everything as a challenge, right?
Yeah. So
Hugely knowledgeable about Conan, but that from what I've read, that seems to be along those lines.
yeah, I need to read more than I have. Using that as a building block, I would say that I could probably look really silly if people were asking me a lot of deep questions about it. But you know, I'm a guy that I'm not afraid to admit my shortcomings. So there's one that I should know more about Conan than I do.
So here's a question from the comments section. My nachos said, "Do you think Doctor Strange should have kept his powers that made him overpowered?" And that's something I'd ever thought of. Um, what do you think?
Well, it's just not good storytelling to have a character be too powerful, like I was talking about earlier. They have to be limited in some way. Even Superman has weaknesses, and we know that if you make the real problem is if you make a character that's too powerful, then the audience isn't going to care because they know he can win. you have to be able to create a situation where he might not be able to win. And whenever that you have an overpowered hero, there's no suspense. You know that he's going to win because he's so powerful, nothing can even challenge him. The only way that works is if it's a joke like One Piece Man. Like the whole point of that is that he's so powerful that he's bored.
Yeah, actually that's one of the problems with open-ended storytelling.
Excuse me, One Punch Man. I was getting two mangas mixed up. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure I was catching that or not because I'm not super familiar with either property. But what I was going to say is with open-ended storytelling, I think that the concept of overpower is more of a problem than with bookend or open and closed storytelling because you have it comes up to the situation where if you have a character and they've passed these obstacles and achieved this high level of power and strength, right? Then eventually you have to either up the ante and come up with a tougher villain, right? Or you have to find some way to depower them. One of the things in our universe where we've tried working on is that everything's on a fixed timeline, all of our different stories. So people age and they die and all that kind of stuff. That's just part of our timeline. So we don't expect, even if we were to pass our characters on to somebody else, we don't expect to see 50 years of stories from our kids from our high school. They're going to graduate, they're going to move in, they're going to go to college or regular jobs, they're going to have kids, they're going to grow old. And that's something that has to be there. And that's our part of our limiting principle is that time moves.
Yeah, I like that. That's the way they had it in Dragon Ball. But I think it was kind of poorly done because none of the adult characters ever seemed to change that much. It was just the kids would grow up eventually.
That's one of the things where, like, I mean, that was one of the frustrating things too, from my perspective. On the other side of that too is I have DC, they've got a rotating timeline. So I was, Dick Grayson with Robin for 50 years. Tim Drake was Robin for 15, and then they decided they needed to transition him off and bring another guy in. And I didn't feel like they were quite done telling Tim Drake as Robin stories. It's like they hadn't really had an end to that story that was, for me, satisfactory. So it felt kind of like I was getting robbed when they introduced Damien.
Yeah, like how old is Batman supposed to be at this point if he's raised all these Robins up to be adults and switched them out to new ones?
Well, and in the timeline before the New 52, he was almost 40. That was like canon. He was like 38, 37 years old. But they went and they took 10 years when they launched the New 52. They just shaved 10 years off everybody's life. Tried to say that all those events were crammed into that time frame without 10 years there. So instead of the DC universe, like modern era, being 12 years long, it had been 2 years, 2 to 5 years, depending on which character you were reading.
Yeah, that's just another thing that manga does better than American comics is it gets so confusing when you get in all these events. Like it's hard to keep track of any timeline, no matter how much you follow it.
And it's one of those things where, like, I just wish they'd come up with new characters, right? I mean, if you've got a totally different take to take, then why not just come up with a new character? Why have to book off the previous existing one?
Well, when they do that, they make a character that people don't want, and then they just try to keep pushing it anyway. You can't push a character that people don't like. You need to just move on and make another character and hope it sticks. But they never do that. It's either like you were saying, you keep going with the same old character that which should be like 120 years old now. or you make a character that nobody wants, but because of identity politics, you can't just get rid of them.
Yeah. I think one character that, I mean, one like a really good example we're talking about was Jack Knight Starman, right? So he was, they already had like a child of Ted Knight that was named David that showed up in the early '90s Starman series, and he was kind of a joke, right? He wasn't a good fit for it, and they wanted to play him off the Starman that they had at the time, who was the hero of that title. And so James Robinson came in and he wanted to do, a Gen X former punk rock kid who's growing up and trying to find himself. And so he created a new character and tied it into the previously existing legacy in a way that felt really organic and it fit really, really well. And the other thing that was great about Starman was that it had a beginning, middle, and an end. The whole series did. So, when Jack had matured and developed to the point where his story led him to, that was it for him. They retired the character. I thought that was a really great way of doing that.
Oh yeah, you don't see that anymore in American comics.
Not very often, that's for sure. I mean, I think the creation of I got to plug in here.
Okay, I'm
There we
listening.
go. Come back. The creation of Dick Grayson as Nightwing is probably, I don't know, it's an example of that. But they won't even let Nightwing be a consistent Nightwing right now.
Well, how old is he supposed to be now?
Well, okay. I believe he's supposed to be like 23, 25, somewhere in there. When he had been 30, right?
So he got that decade shaved off of him too.
Yeah, they all had that time shave, and then now it was just less than 10 years off of Dick's life, but 10 years of continuity, right? So they made him a little older when he became Robin and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I've really, that's been that I'm a DC guy, but that's been a real annoyance to me. That whole thing. I don't know. And part of it is like I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with the problem I had with the New 52, but it was one of those things where if they wanted to fold in the universes, the Wildstorm universe and the mainstream DC universe, they didn't have to like extricate everything from the DC universe as it was. There was smoother ways of doing that wouldn't have required unwriting a bunch of stories. And I don't, they had already done like what was it, 2 or 3 years where Dick took over as Robin after Batman was supposedly killed. And I mean, people really enjoyed those stories. I wasn't buying comics for that time period, but everyone I talked to about since then just goes on and on about how great they were, how much Dick is as Batman. And I mean, there's no reason to not take those characters and grow them up, I think.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting concept. And people really like Batman Beyond too. When you see a real old Bruce Wayne training a new Batman, people like stuff like that. But
yeah,
I don't know. They're too risk averse. They can't try anything that is actually risky with the characters anymore. It seems like it's corporate media is just like all saccharine and watered down. It really, I hope that it's on the way out. People are starting to lean more towards smaller content creators on the internet, and I think that's a good thing.
And that's one of the interesting things to talk about comparing like comics to manga too, because in comics you have these properties that people want to protect, but a lot of manga is produced all by like a small group of people or even just one person. That's just like that's their work, it's their opus, and there's a freedom in that kind of creation to tell the best story that they feel without having obligated to keep the property alive. And there's a difference to that. One of the things that a lot of fans, myself included, have complained about is a lot of current comic creators don't respect the properties that they're dealing with in a way that they want to keep them around, right? They break them basically. I mean, I don't know if you ever read Identity Crisis, right? But it broke most of the characters that were involved in it. It ruined the heroic impulses of the JLA. It destroyed the life and the motivation and impetus for Elongated Man. It killed Tim Drake's dad, which is one of the things that made him different from the other Robins in a lot of good ways, and gave him a unique twist on it. And it just ushered in like a whole bunch of weird, crappy Band-Aid patch storytelling over the next like 5 years that in some ways necessitated some kind of relaunch that the New 52 was. I don't think he did it well, but something had to be done because a lot of those characters were wrecked.
Well, I think the problem with that, where they don't respect the characters, is that they don't respect the medium as a whole. And I was talking about this on Twitter just a minute ago, is that the people who are writing comics now, they don't want to be comic writers, they want to be screenwriters. And they're just there as a jumping off point. They want to make something that's going to get turned into a Netflix series or something else stupid like that. And that's okay to aspire to want to have your comic made into a show. That's like a mark of success. But when you're going in and that's your goal, I don't think that you're going in from a place that's honest or respectful to the medium.
Well, I think you got a big point to that. I think it's one thing to be able to say, that this would make a good property, and I mean, I think we could all point to film adaptations or even novel adaptations of comics that were just excellent within their medium. But at the same time, you have if it's not made as out of a love for comics, then it's going to miss something out of it. There's a unique visual aspect that comics have that like film doesn't have.
And you can even look at, of course, everybody talks about how great Alan Moore was in his heyday. He hated the idea of adaptations. He was writing comics, and that's all he wanted to do. And it sees in the love and passion that he had for the comics that he created.
Very true. Very true. So, if you were going to pick like your top shelf comic projects, what are your favorites? Like, say 3.
Like my favorite comics that I've read.
Yes.
I would say number 1 would be The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. I'm a huge Disney Ducks fan, and I love the way that Don Rosa went through all the Carl Barks Scrooge comics and meticulously he created from that source material like a real biography of Scrooge's life from when he's a child until like the modern time of him being in Duckburg with his nephews. And if you haven't read it, it's just a great, great graphic novel. It's so fun, and the art's fun, and everything about it is just a joy. So that would definitely be number 1. Probably number 2 would be Yoshihiro Tatsume's The Pushman, which is a collection of short stories by a Japanese guy who claims to have invented the idea of manga for adults. Now I don't know if that's true, but That's what he claims. He says he invented the term Gakita. I think it's something like that, which is what he would call adult-oriented manga. But he wrote these really human stories that would only be like 6 pages at the most. But there was so much emotion in the way that he told the stories. That's something to really check out. And also, he had a lot of great uses of solid blacks that I like to see. Mm, and I would say that it's probably the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Volume 2 is a really good book that I enjoy. It's just a lot of fun. I don't have a lot to say about it though. Okay, I think everybody knows that one pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, it got a lot of attention. That's for sure. So, but yeah, and
But
I mean, there's definitely some great stuff in it. My thing is like, I was kind of let down by the Black Dossier.
yeah, it's that
I
book
haven't
is
really been able to
boring.
look at that league quite the same since then.
Yeah, I agree. That book is pretty boring. I don't really think that they should have even made it, honestly. If you don't have a good idea for another book, you don't have to make one.
That's a fair. And some of the like the story behind the stuff was interesting. The thing that really threw me is it's like so heavy. There's just so much erotica that it
Yeah.
distracts the story. You know,
Well,
I mean, and that's not my thing. I mean, I some other people that's their thing, but it's definitely not mine.
I'll tell you what really I didn't like about the Black Dossier is in the back, Alan Moore always does these things everybody knows where he'll have like stories in text to complement the graphic parts. And in the back, there's a story about the League fighting Cthulhu. And when I read that, it made me mad that that wasn't the book that they made. Instead, they made it like this footnote because that would have been a way cooler story than what we got. I was actually super annoyed and I wanted to throw that book in the garbage. It made me so mad.
That is a very interesting response. I would not have predicted that that would have been the way it went for you.
Uh, he he definitely subverted my expectations with that though. Like some
It
of
was
these
your Last Jedi.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. Like some of these guys, they're such artists. Like they want to do something that you don't expect to the point that it's something that it just pisses you off. And I don't see the point of that.
See, and I don't mind like stories that like do something you don't expect, right? Like, for example, I expected Ant-Man the film to be trash. I thought it was going to be garbage, and it was just fun. And it wasn't.
Yeah,
And the lead character was the Scott Lang character is he's not an idiot in the terms that he's not an intelligent person, but he has no sense. He's simple reaction to stuff, and he's dumb because he's not thoughtful. But he
well,
is,
I think
and so that was
I
the play.
I would describe him as being of average intelligence. Like you
Yeah,
know, the average IQ is 100, which that's not that smart. So if you're just an average guy, you're going to seem dumb to people who aren't. It's like the average height is 5'9" or 5'10". It's somewhere in there. But a lot of people would call that short. It's really all about perspective.
yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But with that, I expect the movie to be terrible, but it was just there was so much whimsy to it that I couldn't help but love it.
Yeah, it's a really fun movie, and they did a lot of cool stuff, like the fight in the little girl's room at the end.
And the train. Oh,
Yeah, it's so good.
yeah, that was great. So I don't necessarily mind my expectations being subverted, right? But what I dislike about it is when it's not honest. right?
Well, it's actually easy to subvert your expectations if you don't care if your audience is going to like it or not. The hard part is keeping them involved and enjoying it. I could always come up with an end to a story that isn't what you expect, but that doesn't mean it's good. Let's say like the story ends, you think they're going to win, the good guys, but then the sun just randomly explodes and everybody dies. You never saw that coming, did you? A meteor comes out of the sky and destroys everything, and it was all pointless. But see, that's easy. I could come up with an end that you would never expect. The
Yeah.
the hero spontaneously combusts and burns to death in a painful way, and there's nothing anybody can do. The end.
Actually, a great example of that kind of thing being used, sardonically, if you will, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books, right? Are
Yeah,
you familiar?
yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, they are. And well, we just recently picked up the old BBC series. They had it for sale at Walmart, so we've been watching that, and it's ridiculous. But there's a lot of things like that that are just these totally unpredictable, random things that uh, Douglas Adams threw in just it was it is intentionally stupid, right? It's intentionally random, if you will, and uh, and it's there to accentuate the silliness of the story, and it does a good job with that. But it's not it's not supposed to be mythic storytelling. It's just fun.
Yeah, and that's okay too.
Yeah,
Scott Bruckner says to me, having the heroes lose can be an amazing starting point for character growth.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, I mean, you can do that right. There, just because you're doing it doesn't mean it's always right, is all I'm saying. But to go back to Alan Moore, look at The Watchmen. The heroes lose, like the villain gets everything he wanted, but you're not mad. Like, it's just such a cool story in the way that it's done. He does it right. It doesn't
Well,
make you hate the story.
well, and one of the things about that too is in the denouement, like everybody, let me back up for a second. Everybody talks about Watchmen, and everyone's takeaway from it was the deconstruction of the American superhero, right? But what I think people miss is in the denouement, it's the rebuilding of the American superhero too, right? Because their failures aren't with their hero-ness, their failures are with their humanity, right? But as people, what we fail at can be the starting block, like Scott points out, the starting point for what we become from there on. Once we've realized where our frailty is, then we can build upon that and build something to compensate for that. And that's what you have in that last like 2 or 3 pages of Watchmen that I think people forget because there's like so many projects. I was talking last week with Popefire that a lot of the people that looked at Kingdom Come were these people that were decided to take that framework and import that into the DC universe and build their version of Watchmen using the forces and the destination pointed at by Kingdom Come, right? This is kind of shaping the DC universe to be the universe that would become the universe of Kingdom Come, rather than follow the train of events as the DC universe had been unfolding in itself. They were manufacturing Kingdom Come out of the DCU because because they were aping Watchmen and missing that the deconstruction is there to show what reconstruction looks like in those last few pages.
Well, yeah, I think that you're getting a good point about why it works. Because when you see in the end Silk Spectre and Night Owl together and they're going on with their lives, and it seems like they're going to go on to have a good life together. And so you know, even though they failed and Ozymandias got everything he wanted, the world's going to be better because of it. That's the feeling that I get.
And it's not just that they're going on to good life. They also you have Rorschach's journal, which has already been sent in because Rorschach knew what was going to happen at the South Pole. He figured it out. So he's like, his final pull was to send that journal to the newspaper, and Ozymandias is going to get what he wants, but not forever. Right?
Well, that's an interesting thing to think about, though, because he sends it to the New Frontiersman, which is considered like this crazy right-wing rag. So even if they publish that story, it's going to sound like the most insane conspiracy theory that they've ever come up with. So is anybody even going to take it seriously? That's what I've always thought about.
Well,
It would be
that's
like
actually
Alex Jones coming out with something like that, like when you care, like when he's on there ranting about the government's making human animal hybrids, that there's these pig chimeras, like that. What if that was true and you just don't believe it because of the source?
well, in fairness, it's more true than I think Alex Jones knows, but the problem is it doesn't mean what he pretends to think it means. That's just like that whole that rant is that got turned into a meme that turning the frogs gay, right? Well, that's sort of happening, right?
Yeah, there's chemicals that are making a certain frog change its gender.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
what is
It's all
actually
the leftover birth
happening.
control that's in the water supply because
Yeah.
women are on the pill, and it's having an effect on resexualizing frogs. But which is weird. I don't know what that means for the ecology, but it is happening. And I don't think Alex Jones knew that.
Yeah, maybe he just got lucky. He just rants about weird shit all day, and he's bound to hit a few bullseyes.
Yeah, I think that's my working theory. You throw enough darts to the wall, you hit the target eventually. That's
But that's the point, though, is the in the Watchmen universe, that's pretty much what the New Frontiersman is like Alex Jones. So, I mean, even if they read Rorschach's journal and publish it, I don't know if it's going to make any difference.
yeah, and that's definitely a question, part of the open-endedness of it all. But I think when my personal take on when you take a look at Rorschach's journal and the owl and the new comedian, right? The Spectre becoming the new comedian. Um, when you have those things together, I think that was the telegraphing, is that this is the beginning of the new world. This is the beginning of the rebirth of the hero. This is the ending of that old system. And there's a Pax Romana, if you will, based upon all of these different events. And that's because one of the things about Ozymandias in his last thing is they're like, what have you done? You're corrupted, and he's willing to accept being corrupted for the sake of becoming something else, for the sake of peace on earth as he sees it. And so that's one of those, one of the interesting aspects about that, because one of the things about Ozymandias' motive is it's not out of a personal power grab. It's because he just thinks that as the smartest man on earth, he knows the only way to make people get along.
Well, that's the most realistic villain, though.
Yeah.
Really, is the villain that thinks they're doing the right thing. Did you see the Kingsman 2? The Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle. Did you see that movie?
No, I haven't.
Julianne Moore plays the villain, and she's called Poppy, and she's like obsessed with these 50s housewives like June Cleaver or something. But her whole
Oh, who is
point,
it?
yeah, she wants to be that character, but she's a really interesting character, and her whole point in the movie is that it's weird that illegal drugs are such a big deal to the government whenever there's worse stuff that you can buy legally, which is a good point that you hear a lot libertarian cultures. So, but she wants to. She does. It's actually right, but the way she goes about trying to prove that she's right is evil, and she like gets people hooked on this really powerful drug. But the point is that that's the kind of villain that you can believe in is one that really kind of has a point. Like Magneto, it makes sense what he thinks and why he does the things he does. What he does is just evil. He goes about it the wrong way.
Well, I think that's one of the interesting aspects too. And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds as far as political theory goes, but one of the aspects, one of the situations, one of the deals with that is that the villains, the really great villains, have these altruistic motives, but a fundamental misunderstanding of what are human rights and how do those work out, right? Like Doctor Doom, he wants to bring peace on Earth, but he's willing to oppress free will and you know, self rule and all those things that make us individuals for the sake of peace.
Yeah, or like Ultron is designed to keep people safe, but then he has to do that pretty much by oppressing everybody.
And one of the things that it's always frustrating to me in situations like that is you have a situation where you have a hero who's or a villain who's really just misunderstanding. But in a lot of movies and a lot of comics, the hero just defeats the villain and then doesn't explain why he's wrong. That's not
That's such
necessarily
a
good
simple
TV,
thing.
but
I've
like
never thought about that. But
like
I
what
mean, I'm sure that Professor X would be glad to sit down and explain to Magneto why he's wrong. He just won't listen.
yeah. And it's one of those
But
where, like, I don't know, in Civil War, Captain America Civil War, I the real villain, right? Obviously Zemo is a villain, but the real villain is Tony Stark, right? Because he's the impetus behind everything that's going wrong. Is his willfulness and his pride is as illuminated and as illustrated in the other pictures. And so they're having this big fight at the end, and they're yelling at each other. And I just wanted Steve to grab Tony by the shoulders and be like, "This is your fault." You, it's you. It's not me. It's you. You want to give up your armor? Give up your armor. But I'm not going to stop being Captain America.
yeah, why are you trying to force it on everybody else? It's his choice if he wants to do that.
Just because you feel guilty. And you should, because you're an ass.
That's a lot of real life villains. Is the stuff they do is because they feel guilty about their own actions. You can look at Eric Esquivel or however you say his damn name. Almost every male feminist, like they come out that they're doing weird, perverted stuff like that, and then you just know that the reason that they were virtue signaling so loud was because they felt guilty.
Yeah, and one of the things about that too, that about the whole male feminist thing, is so much of their talking points actually assume a lack of agency on behalf of women in general. That we have to protect them according to what we think protection is, because women aren't capable of protecting themselves. But those of us like conservatives who say that men and women are different and men need to live up to the noble standard of chivalry to protect women who aren't physically capable, that's bad. You know, how dare you hold the door for women, but don't tell anyone I raped them.
They have autonomy.
And that they have autonomy. Yeah, I just both those things. I just like
Are you telling me that they're not just like robots?
they're not. They're not, man. They are in fact sentient beings. And as we know from Optimus Prime, freedom is the right of all sentient beings.
Oh, well, you see that? I've learned something today.
Optimus Prime can help you with their relationships. Remember that.
Are they born the same way as humans?
Women, yes. Yes, they are.
Wow. So, huh.
It is not, in fact, true that women descend from moonbeams to grace us with their presence. They,
I've got a lot of stuff that I'm gonna have to like digest.
Now, it is true that their skin does exude magic, but that's different.
Yeah.
So,
But do they fart?
yes.
Oh well. So that was the one thing I was for sure that's got to be true.
So, Scott, quite a while ago, posed a question in the chat that I'd like to talk about villains with noble goals um, versus vigilantes who are sadistic psychos, which is of course we talked a little bit about villains with noble goals already, and what makes them villains or their uh, divergence from human rights and well, our societal propriety, right? And I feel fairly confident that Western society is the pinnacle of civilization, and anybody can join in. But that the Declaration of Independence does contain the most concise and accurate statement about human governance in history. Uh, but at the
Yeah, I
same
have no disagreement with any of that.
Yeah. At the same time, I think that we talked about villains being because they subvert that news autonomy. When it comes to vigilantes who are sadistic psychos, Scott, would you mind giving some examples? Because I mean, I can think of a couple from movies, um, but who were you thinking of specifically?
Well, I think he's probably talking about like a Rorschach to get back to Watchmen. As
Hmm.
Rorschach is definitely a psycho, and he's presented as a fascist because he pretty much if somebody doesn't have the same morals as him, he just wants to kill them.
Yeah. At the same time, though, the people that he singles out for this over the top violence are not people that are just going about their business. You know,
No, he definitely the people that he's killing that we see are people who are killing kids and stuff like that. But
yeah,
he
they're
has a
engaged in
apparently
battle, so to speak.
he apparently has a long career that we didn't see of just being pretty much Judge Dredd. So we really don't know who all he's killed and why. And with the way that he works, I'd say that there was probably a lot of innocent people that got caught in that crossfire.
Mm.
But we just don't know that's not in the story.
And one of the things too, I mean that, and it's to me, it's funny. Like when Alan Grant was not Alan Grant, Alan Moore, wrong Alan from the '80s.
I know what you mean. I'm not now. Come on now. Come on.
Anyway, Alan Moore, when he was putting together Watchmen, of course, he wanted to make the Charlton heroes, the Question and Captain Atom, and all those guys. And DC editorial said, nope, nope, can't ruin these characters. We have plans for them. We want to use them. We just bought them. You can't just destroy them forever. And one of the things about that is so telling is he recreated these similar paradigms, and Rorschach was, of course, a mockery of the Question, right? Because Alan Moore doesn't respect objectivism at all. And at the same time, it's funny to me that the only character who is consistent and truthful throughout the course of Watchmen is Rorschach. Everyone else is wishy-washy or dishonest or corrupt, but only Rorschach is true to himself and true to an outside sense of morality.
Well, with everything he does, like he has a moral code that makes sense, and I think that's what makes him such an interesting character. You can't have a character like that going back to the limits and everything. If you're going to make a character like that, they have to have some kind of redeeming quality that people can identify with. And you can see in that story, he's the most popular character easily. Everybody loves Rorschach. So you know that this character that's a complete psycho and just goes around killing people because he sees himself as judge and jury, but you love him just for the fact that it makes sense to you in a way, like the way that his moral code is just so laid out and reasonable in a weird kind of way.
Well, and it's also outside of himself, right? And part of, I think, what drives Rorschach to madness is the fact that he's also subject to that moral code. And so when he dies at the end, he knows that like it's the action is unjust, the consequence is not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's
those
like
things where
the saying, like when he kills all the monsters, there will still be one monster, and that's himself.
yeah. And I think it's one of those things too, is because his morality doesn't stem from just his opinion, it's from outside of himself, that's what gives that clarity to it. That he's also subject to the same system in which he believes, which is something that Dr. Manhattan doesn't believe that there's any kind of limitation, which is an interesting offset counterpoint.
Well, you can even see that in that final confrontation with Dr. Manhattan and Rorschach, is that Rorschach is actually conflicted. He knows the right thing to do would be for his morals to expose Ozymandias, but that's going to cause nuclear war. So it's a catch-22. There's really no good answer for him. So he would rather just die than have his principles to be corrupted. He asked Dr. Manhattan to kill him.
Yeah, and it's also crazy too because Dr. Manhattan is not bound by our time domain or the laws of physics. So, at least in any way that we can perceive. So, really, the fix to the whole nuclear problem is Dr. Manhattan. He just causes the bombs to cease to exist.
Yeah, we think that it would be that easy, but I don't know that there's a part where they say that he couldn't stop them all. So I get he's got to be limited in some way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that the how his powers work is left um, purposely vague. That makes sense too for the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, and that's also part of it. You have to have some sort of conflict. There's writing a story with zero plot holes is virtually impossible. Somebody's always will be like, hey, forgot about this thing.
Or you can just do fantasy and say, oh, it was magic.
Well, I mean, like I think my favorite example about that is in Lord of the Rings, right? Everyone's like, why didn't they take the eagles and drop it in the Mount Doom? And that's and everyone's like, oh, it's a plot hole. But Tolkien's like, no, the eagles wouldn't do it.
Yeah, maybe they don't give a shit. You don't know what eagles do.
You know, they can't be convinced. They have agency and they won't do it.
They could be just like, fuck you, this has nothing to do with me. I'm an eagle.
And that's exactly what the opinion of the Eagles was, according to they may have mercy on an individual outside of Mordor, but what goes on in Mordor is not their business. And if all the people die, well, it's kind of their fault.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're deep into the Lord of the Rings lore, but if you go back through the first age and stuff, it is kind of everyone's fault for
like the Silmarillion and all that.
It's super thick, and I don't know as much as I even want to about that yet, but because I'm still reading the books, the Wherein and stuff, but humans and elves kind of screwed the pooch on that one, you know.
Yeah. I don't know anybody that's read the whole Silmarillion. That's a hard read.
Oh yeah,
It's like a fake Bible, like the way it's written. It's like, I don't know. It's just too detailed, I guess, is the word I'm looking for.
Well, and part of it is like the style it's written in. I mean, of course, Tolkien did not finish that in his lifetime, right? The notes ended up being compiled, and it was mostly done when he died. But his boy, which one is it? I can't remember right now. One of his sons, who's like a literary executor, compiled all of the notes together, and then after compiling those notes, put pieces and filled in the narrative, right? And so the style that Tolkien and his son were going for was in the same style as the old collections of like pre-Arthurian, like Celtic folklore and history books. So that line between the Venerable Bede and the Red Book of Hengirst. And so that's the kind of style they were going for, which is very dry, very detailed, and very there's a grand sweep to it still, but it's not easy reading. It's not something you can just pick up and read on the crap. You know, you really got to bring it into it.
Yeah, my ex-wife was like the biggest Tolkien fan I've ever met, and even she couldn't finish that. I don't have the attention span for it. I'm not even going to try because I know I can't do it. I've got like a 2-second attention span. The internet has ruined me. Like, whenever you go on and you look at a video and it's 10 minutes and you're like, that's too long. I don't have all day to watch a 10-minute video.
My biggest problem is like I like to put them on when I'm doing other stuff, you know, working in the yard or whatever. I'll listen to a podcast or videos or whatever while I'm doing that. But I'm cheap. I have a Walmart plan cell phone. So it's got a limited number of high speed. So about that fourth week in the month, like my internet's like crawl. It's like dial-up speed. I can't stream anything, and so I'll sit there and be like, I'm missing all the streams.
Yeah.
And that's just a week. I could pick up a book. I could download an audio book, but I just sit there and feel sorry for myself for using all my data up.
I like to listen to longer videos while I draw, but that's the only time. Normally, I'm just playing video games anyway.
So, now let's talk a little about your project here. How many pages a week do you end up drawing?
Well, it just depends, cause some pages just need a lot more detail than others. I can, if I'm really booking, I can do about 3 pages a day, but that's if I'm working all day.
That's the drawing table, though.
Yeah, I don't usually have time to spend all day at a table. I might be lucky to get a page a week normally with my day job and everything else I gotta do. It's just being an adult. When I was a kid, man, I'll tell you, I drew 5 pages a day sometimes. I could make like a whole comic in a week. But I don't have that free time anymore.
Yeah, that happens when you get a job and a wife.
I wrote in 2007. I drew a 200-page graphic novel in 3 months.
That is impressive.
Yeah, I had a lot of free time at that time. And what's funny is you don't appreciate that when you have it. You're like, man, I'm bored. It's like that song, if I could save time in a bottle, I'd have like a bunch of that on my shelf and be getting it out like tonight.
Yeah, I have kind of the opposite problem. I haven't been bored since high school. I just keep filling my time with too many things, whether it's the day job or working in the writing comics or coloring them or doing this stream. So, but the kind of way I look at it is trying to trying to build a little presence there, do a little marketing while I'm having fun talking about comics and stories. So
Yeah, that's what it's about, getting your stuff out there. And
yeah,
hopefully you'll be lucky enough that people will want to be entertained by you,
yeah. Hopefully,
that they'll enjoy what you're
again, that's
doing.
definitely the goal.
Did you see something good?
I just I just flipped over to Twitter to see if there were any updates on stuff, and I noticed that my nachos, who I think is still in the chat, commented, "I read this as Hey Mark," when I said Hark Hark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh hi Mark. Which that is hilarious to me, so I laughed.
Yeah. Good times, great oldies. Yeah, but my comic is complete. That I'm promoting right now, issue 1 of Dragon Knight All Drake. I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
do a crowdfunding. I finished the book and now it's ready to buy print on demand. So
Sweet.
it's only $4. You don't have to spend $20 on Indiegogo to get it.
And that's coming from you have a on Indie Planet, right?
Yeah, it's on Indie Planet.
And so
For
so for the 3 people watching, does that include shipping on that, or is that how much is shipping? You know?
I think it depends on where you live. You just like
Yeah.
type in your zip code or something, and it'll tell you. What's cool, if anybody's interested in going that route, is that if you do print on demand like that, they take care of everything. They'll print the comic and ship it, and then you just get the money. Like it's a really easy way to do selling a comic.
That you've had that up there for a couple of weeks, right?
Uh, it just went up, I think, last Monday, maybe. I don't
Have you
remember
got a
the
lot of
exact
traffic on
date.
that yet, or?
It should have been on there before that. I don't know what took them so long, but it finally went up. And I have some graphic novels on there also. There's Aldrake versus Cronus Knights, which is the story that takes place before this one that I'm doing now. So if you want to read it in order, you can do that. But it doesn't really matter. He's just a drunk redneck that he fights monsters. You're not going to be lost wherever you decide to go. But that's a 180-page graphic novel for $15. And also, you can get the digital version for 99 cents and be reading it tonight.
Cool. Cool.
So it works out. If you got your choice, if you want to pay $1 and just read the digital version, or if you'd rather have something in your hand, you can pay $15.
So since you put up Aldrich versus the Priestess, right?
Yeah, that's the new story.
And is that the first of a miniseries, or is that standalone?
Yeah, that's issue 1 out of a 4-issue miniseries. So right now I'm working on a page. I don't know if I can reveal what it is yet, but I'm really working hard on that. And when I finish that, and I'm having a contest. This is what I'll be doing next. If you uh, follow me on Twitter before midnight on Sunday, you'll be put into a drawing to get a free commission by me. So I will draw whatever you want if you win. You just have to follow me on Twitter. And if you already follow me, all you have to do is retweet the tweet that's talking about the contest.
Which I did.
Yeah. Yeah, you already did that, but I almost forgot the whole point of that. I was saying I'm going to be starting on issue 2 after I do those things.
Very cool. Very cool.
But that shouldn't take long. It's just 1 page for this other project, and then whatever the winner wants me to draw. And I'll be announcing the winner live on my show, Turbo Live, which is every Saturday night. It'll be next Saturday is when I'll announce the winner.
So cool. Well, I guess since just guys are talking about, I will share some of what we have going on too. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, me and the guys have been working on. There's a small crew of us here in our little. But we've been working on Webcomic Forces Good and Evil. Of course, the story of a couple of high school students and superheroes in high school, and all of their friends and all their crazy, wacky adventures. And we are in the middle of the 24th story right now called Panic at the Ren Fair. I'm having a lot of fun with that one. We'll have another page up to that tomorrow. And we're also working on another story, a comic called Joe Jobs, which is the story of a former villain student who decides rather than be a supervillain, he'd rather work crappy entry-level jobs.
That sounds pretty funny.
So he is, I think so. It's that's Patreon, and right now everything's free for everyone because we only have 2 patrons, and I just don't want to hide away my love of this project. I'm probably going to leave it open for everyone until we get the first volume of that done, and then we'll get behind the paywall and sell the trade on that. But that's so right now we've got Greg, is his name, Greg Mason, and he works at a fast food joint called Whoopty Burger, which is home of the Whoopty Burger. And so that's going on. And then we're also working behind the scenes to get our first crowdfund to get put together for Expositioner Vox Populi. I was talking about that one. It's the Monster Mystery.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about that before we went live. I like it. I really like the idea of Joe Jobs. That sounds like a great idea for a comic. I think you could really
it's a lot of fun.
Work.
Yeah, we've got a regular narrative going on in it. But last week my artist got super sick and couldn't do it, so I filled in with a little filler page that's just me, and it's it's a little silly. It's, my style is a little rougher than Rico's by a lot, and because I'm a meager cartoonist. Um, but with that said, we have this coming up for Christmas. We're going to be doing a 3-page mini Christmas story that's part of our continuity, but is not part of our current story. So we're going to have to jump back into that storyline in January.
Have you ever heard of The Devil is a Part-Timer?
No.
It's an anime about Satan working at McDonald's. So it's really funny, but that's what I thought about when you were talking about that.
I've never even heard of that. That sounds hilarious.
I've heard it's really funny. I've actually not seen any of it, but it looks really funny.
Did you ever see Chad Vader, Shift Manager?
I'm sorry, you cut out when you said that. I have no idea what you said.
There was a YouTube show called Chad Vader Night Shift Manager.
No, that sounds
Sergeant
funny.
Vader's
I've
younger
never
brother
heard of
Chad
that.
works at a grocery store as the night shift supervisor.
He's Darth Vader's.
A younger brother Chad.
Okay. There was a sketch on Saturday Night Live where they did Undercover Boss.
Yep, I saw that. That's hilarious.
That was really funny.
That is very, very funny. So,
I like that.
So much better.
Saturday Night Live hasn't really been that funny to me in a long time, but I liked that sketch.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you just said.
So it's like almost embarrassing to say, "Hey, I saw a funny sketch on Saturday Night Live."
Well, every once and again they've got a good one. Did you see where they had Tom Hanks was on playing a redneck on Black Jeopardy?
That was a great sketch.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me wonder why there's racial tension in this country because everyone loved that sketch. It's like, can't we just like this? If we all like this, what can we possibly not be fighting about?
Well, I think that sketch is actually good satire because it makes a good point. Like the real dividing thing in our culture is class. It's not race. If you're a lower class person, you would have more in common with somebody that's in your same class, no matter what their race is, than somebody that would be like rich or upper middle class.
Well, and Thomas Sowell made the point. I'm going from Tom Hanks to Thomas Sowell. That's a jump, but Thomas Sowell made a point in his book, "Black Rednecks and White Ghettos." I think it's called. But just that poor white culture is what's founded Black American culture. You know that it came from that rural redneck British Islands, Ireland, Scotland, North England. Those the redneck culture that those brought in the Appalachian Mountains and everything that American Black culture was built on because their African culture was thoroughly extricated during the slave trade.
Yeah,
So
they really don't have a lot not in common. I've known a lot of poor white people and I've known a lot of poor black people, and it seems like if they could get past their prejudices, that they would get along fine. Because, like you're saying, their cultures aren't that different. My wife is a social worker, so she works with poor people all day. She sees what the reality is of their lives. I think it's funny that just a side note to that is she would rather work with ghetto people than white trash. So I think that she finds the ghetto people a little more reasonable. Because when you've got white trash, a lot of times they're like on meth or something, and you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one divergence that you see is what is the drug of choice and how does that
Yeah.
no, that is a we got both spectrums here on that for sure.
Yeah, you get on that, and you're pretty much like a zombie.
A zombie who's really excited all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a stoked zombie.
I have run into far too much of that in my day life. I'll tell you that.
I
And like I
don't
said,
know.
I mentioned before we started the stream, my day job is as a human service worker as well. I
Oh
work
yeah.
with mentally ill youth predominantly, and so we see kids that have been on the stuff or their parents have been on the stuff, and all that kind of thing. So substance abuse and mental health are hand in glove situations for sure.
Well,
We're
that's a
depressing
life.
talking about Star Wars, but it is in fact the truth.
Yeah. We kind of got off on a depressing tangent.
Yeah, that is one. We should
Yeah,
bring it back and talk about something
yeah.
fun. Looks like
We're
we've got
supposed to
viewers that
be
are eager.
entertaining. So,
So, if you were to incorporate one new element into Aldrich that you haven't touched yet, that you're just waiting on, what is it?
well, I think the hero's journey is important when you're thinking about what to do next. That's how I got to the story I'm on now. Is I just thought about where he's at on the hero's journey. So the Aldrake versus Cronus Knots is a revenge story about and his origin story. So you get to see like how he got his powers and why he does what he does. And when I was finished with that, I had to think about what he needed to do next on his hero's journey. And I realized that he had always relied on his powers to do everything. So I wanted to create a villain that could take his powers away and see how he dealt with that. So that's where we're at in issue 1. He comes face to face with the new villain, High Priestess Funeral, and she steals his dragon soul. He has 2 souls in his body, his soul and the soul of the dragon, uh, Lorio. And so that's what happens in issue 1 is he loses that dragon soul, which is the source of his power. So we're going to have to see what happens. How does he deal with that? How does he beat her without his dragon soul? He's going to have to learn to fight on his own without that crutch.
Yeah, that's a really cool take on that because you have to decide. Is he looking for a new power source? Does he find somebody to become worthy of his powers again, or how does that work on that? So,
But the you can always rely on the hero's journey, and that the point in there is the hero worthy of his gifts? The hero, what makes him the hero isn't his gifts; it's the way he uses them. And that's where it deviates from if the person is a hero or a villain because you see how they use the gifts that they're given.
so if you were going to pick a favorite hero in pop culture or fiction, who is your favorite hero?
So just superheroes, or what do you mean?
Well,
Just period.
superheroes, traditional like hero literature, mythology, whatever.
Mm, I think my favorite like mainstream superhero is probably Thor. So I like him. I like the mythology that he's built on. I like his character. I even like the way he's portrayed in the movies. I think that Chris Helmsworth does a really good job. He's fun. He's just a fun character.
What did you think about the second Thor?
Yeah, that movie I think is pretty boring. I don't know. I liked the concept of him fighting through all those dimensions at the end, but I don't think it was implemented well. It's like really confusing. I don't think that a lot of people that I've talked to that saw that movie didn't even understand what was going on.
I like
Uh,
the story in the movie a lot. I agree with you. I think the execution wasn't necessarily spot on.
yeah, there was something that wasn't done right, and I'm not sure what it is.
Mhm.
It might be the villain. I like that character a lot. What's his name? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Now, right?
Yeah, Malekith. I like him, but the way that he's portrayed in the movie, he's pretty much just Loki 2.0.
Mhm. Well, and I think part of the always to give a prescription for what wasn't quite right about I forget what it's even called, the dark. Anyway, whatever. Thor two. I think the problem was is he didn't have. Um, honestly, this is weird, but I don't think Jane Foster was an active enough character in it. Right? She was a main character in it. Right? She was in a lot of the movie, but she was just reactive to almost all of it. Right? If they had found a way to make her more of an active character in the film, I think that would have been a, um, in fact, the road to making the movie more interesting.
Well,
Right?
I'd say that they really dropped the ball on Jane all around
Mhm.
because she's been in a main character in two movies, and she's been a part of like mentioned in other movies, but she never really does anything. And it really like I don't see why Thor loves her from that the way she's portrayed.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel realistic to me that because their interactions aren't that interesting, really. Like I was saying, she doesn't really do anything.
Well, I think the part of the situation in the first movie that made her appealing was that she so longed to understand the things he said, right? Because like Thor isn't respected for his mind or his ability to reason or the things he knows at home at all. He's just a big dumb guy, and everyone likes him because he's a big fun dumb guy. On Earth, suddenly he knows something that that this obviously smart woman wants to know. So they meet about the stuff he knows.
Uh-huh.
He never thought was secret knowledge. Suddenly he realizes is, and that he's the keeper of this secret knowledge. And that gives him an ownership over it. And so I think that's part of why they have a dynamic is because of that, like that she respects something about him that nobody else respects, right? Because for the other Asgardians, they all know this stuff too because they're all space gods, right? Um, and so that's it. The second movie, I think what they should have done is have her be captured like in the first act by Malekith, right? And so she, as a captor, is on the other side of the fence and learning stuff from Malekith and learning stuff about the origin of the Dark Elves and all that kind of stuff. The Dark World, learning about the Dark Elves from Malekith, and that gives Malekith a chance to be more of a character and more of a person, and to make his mission to attack Asgard more than just it has a righteousness to it, even though it's kind of what we're talking about with Magneto.
Yeah.
There's a justice to it because there is one, but it's not well explained, and it's
Yeah,
explained from his perspective.
you don't get that. really at all from the way that they told that story.
No, you don't. You don't. I mean, if you can read between the lines, and like I'm somebody who like I don't like watch movies to enjoy them or read stories. I'm always cutting them apart. I'm always looking at the pieces. I'm always cracking open the hood, right? I never take anything at face value. That's just not who I am. And so, like, I pick up on a lot of those little things because I'm watching the gears turn, right? But for people are not going to catch all of that. They're not gonna like watch it pieces move. They're just looking at how it looks together, you know.
Yeah, maybe
Because
Disney's doing that on purpose, though. But it's in Thor Ragnarok, it hints that Odin's done some questionable things, but it doesn't really go that much into detail into it there either. So I guess they kind of Disneyed up the character. They think that a mainstream audience wouldn't like him if they went more into that.
and I think that's definitely one aspect of it all. Um, and I think they have to, and like one of the things they do with Ragnarok is they allowed Hela to have the kind of voice questioning the moral authority of Odin that if they would have done with Malekith, it would have made the Dark World a better picture. But Ragnarok couldn't have been Ragnarok with that being the part of in the Dark World. So I guess if you liked Ragnarok a lot, then you probably want to keep Dark World the way it was.
Yeah,
Changing time and everything anyway, you know.
yeah. I wish that it would have been the movie that you described because that sounds cool with Jane being captured and all that. That sounds like it would have been an entertaining film and not what we got.
Yeah. I think it would have been really something. And then the other side too is that like if I was telling the movie, right, what I would have done for the third is I would have had after Jane, you know, because of her knowledge of everything, is able to help Odin at the end of the second one help Thor across the dimensions and all that stuff. I would have started the third with Loki with Thor actually looking for Odin once he discovers he's been gone. Rather than having been on Earth like he was in Ragnarok, I would actually have had Thor, Odin having been held prisoner in Niflheim, in the realm of hell, and have Thor go to attack him and not be able to succeed because he's in the realm of death, and he's powerless in the realm of death. And then have Jane Foster have to rescue Thor using the science.
She's all about the science.
Yeah, because that was her whole point, is that like where Thor looks at this as a mythic perspective, he sees science and myth as the same thing. She sees it from a human perspective, and then seeing those two things work together to allow her to be an active rescuer, an active hero within the nine realms.
Yeah, well,
Expectation.
according to Arthur C. Clarke, science and magic is the same thing.
And that's part of the thing, yeah. So
Yeah, because technology that you don't understand seems like sorcery. That's like a paraphrase of what he said.
I can't remember who said that. Was it Arthur Clarke?
It was Arthur C. Clarke.
I don't know him that well, so
That's okay. You can't know everything. Nobody can.
he's telling me, but I keep trying anyway.
That's what I was teasing earlier. Like I'm not one of these super dorks that's going to look down on somebody for not knowing something. As I know, I don't know a lot of stuff. I don't know a whole lot of stuff. Like, it would be easier to count the things I do know. I never claimed to be some big genius. I just want to write stories about a redneck smashing monsters with a big hammer. That's what I'm here to do.
Well, I'd say you're succeeding at that too.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to head out here in a little while.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, man. I appreciate you coming on for what it is.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to ask me about?
Not really. That's pretty much everything I wanted to hit on. Um, the only thing I was really hoping there'd be that Matt would get here, but I know he said he was getting off about now, so he may not be home yet. But I was hoping
Maybe.
you guys could cross over each other and everything, and I wouldn't have to fill time on air by myself.
Well, I don't have to leave it right this moment. So hopefully he'll show up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to. I'm not trying to guilt you on either. It's not ours to dictate the workings of the universe. So
Yeah.
if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, well, then you got to get on with your life. It's been more than gracious coming on as long as you have. So, and I don't. Like I said, I'm out of questions. I guess we could talk about Oh no, nope, nope, nope. I almost had a thought, but I was wrong.
Are you excited for Christmas? We want to have some like regular normie talk.
Yeah, there you go. I am in fact excited for Christmas. I'm actually quite excited. We're going to be taking the day. Just I have to come into work tomorrow, and then I'm off until Wednesday. So
Yeah, me too. That's what I really like is the time off. It's time to catch up on my drawing and my Smash Brothers.
my kids are huge Smash Brothers fans. Really, I'm not a fighting game guy. I have
Yeah.
for a little while in my early 20s, but um, I don't know. I just don't care anymore.
Well, Smash Brothers isn't like a serious fighting game like Soul Calibur or something.
Yeah.
You're just on there throwing Pokeballs around and silly stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, I've played times. It's just
Yeah. I
it's
like fighting games, but I'm just no good at them. I've got Injustice 2. I really like that game. I can't win ever. Like, my nephews come over here and I'm like, let's play Injustice. And then they just beat the crap out of me every game. Sad. And it's my game. Like, I can play it way more than they can, but I can't win.
well, I tell you exactly what that is. It's the fact that like little kids, like prepubescent kids especially, they have more neural connections in their brain, right? Part of puberty is actually paring down the connections and teaching the brain how to process more efficiently. Because little kids have like way more neural connections, so they have faster response times. Their responses are just erratic and not ordered, but that makes them better in video games because there's more activity going on.
Yeah.
So their brain is processed and programmed to think in a particular way and to think through a certain course of actions. And so when we process anything, it happens really fast, but it has to go through all these intermediary steps that we've built, right? Well, little
So
kids,
what you're saying is
and that makes them better at video games.
so what you're saying is the next time I play Injustice with my nephews, I should smash them in the head with a brick first.
I am not saying that.
You don't think that would even the playing field?
I didn't say that either. I'm just not advocating violence against children.
Oh, okay. Well, when I do it, I'm going to let them know that you said it was okay.
Yeah, that's not true though.
Yeah. I can actually show them the link to the point in the video where you said it.
But I didn't.
Yeah, we'll see.
Listen, I'm getting edited into a GIF that says "beat kids in the head." That's what's
Well, I mean, if you're getting memed on, at least people are that interested in what you're saying.
That is true. That is true. So, well, it is 40 minutes after the hour, and still no sign of our compatriot,
Of the other Matt.
the other Matt,
This is a show for Matts.
in the high and mighty matriarchy.
Yeah. If you're not Matt, you can't be on the show.
Well, you can. It's just there has to be Matts to lead. It's the
Yeah.
rule. So there must be Matts to lead.
Or you can go by Matt while you're on here.
I actually made a joke to somebody else earlier this week. Well, that we'd have to make them an honorary Matt. I have to bestow that upon them. But now, of course, like I said, we had Pope Fire on last week. We did not require that she be Matilda or anything. She came on just as she was. So,
Well, I think you dropped the ball on that one.
well, I like to say actually, I don't like to say it. It's just a matter of fact that I do give extra courtesy to women folk. I just think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So, call me old fashioned or backward or whatever, but that's just seems appropriate.
Well, that's okay. I guess I'm going to call it a night.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and stick it out, and hopefully not everyone just leaves quick. I don't have a whole lot else to talk about. So, but that's fine, man. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me. It's been a lot of fun, for sure. And we will look forward to seeing you around the tweet sphere.
Yeah.
Have you back again sometime.
That'll be good. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Everybody, I want you to give a shout out in the Twit sphere if you see him to Matt Wenger
Yeah.
of Dragoon Knight Aldrake for some great action there and wonderful conversation.
Yeah, be sure and follow me and get in on that contest.
That's true.
Yeah.
Custom art from the man himself.
Free art. All right, I'm out.
Man, you can't beat free art. Come on. And also your channel, the TurboCast. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names sometimes. Oh, he already left. Rat! He's going to get another plug in there for it. So, well, that's that. So, folks, I guess if any of you are still left in the chat down there, you can ask questions if you have questions, or I can work on lettering the next Forces page, and you can see my process on that. Or we could just call it a night. I don't know, man. So I guess from there. I am excited. I will tell you all for Aquaman coming out tomorrow. I'm gonna be checking that out maybe tomorrow. It's coming out tonight. Of course, it's in theaters. A bunch of people have already seen it. I have not had the chance myself. I guess our local theater's not having a late show. So they started at 9. I mean at 8 local time, and I was on stream. I was talking to Wenger about stuff, so I didn't want to cut that out. But I am very excited about Aquaman coming up. I'm a big Aquaman fan. Which, if you've seen the stream a couple times, I think you've probably heard me talk about that a little here or there, or on the Ideal Comics Jam on the other channel about that as well. The whole thing was it's been a favorite of mine. I got serious about Aquaman in my late teens as far as reading a lot of the comics, but I was a fan from my youth, from the Super Friends show, because that's how old I am. And from there, so that's going to be coming up. Of course, it's Christmas. Next week, I will not be on stream. Matt Gibson is taking it solo, as I'm going to be spending time with my wife and kids. Spend some more time. I mean, my days off are ahead of that, but so I'll have a night in because it doesn't happen too often. So we've got a series of things colliding. So I'm going to be taking next week and have my evenings at home. So No streams. Well, no, actually, because Tuesday is Christmas, so no streams from us this week. Next week. So look at that. We have a radio silence from Ideal Comics. So I have not yet watched the Hellboy trailer. Everybody says I should, but I haven't seen it yet. I haven't taken the time. What's your thoughts on it, Scott? Are you excited about it? You're a fan of the original? Have you seen are you in the comics or the old movies with Ron Perlman, who hates me? Actually, I don't know if he hates me directly, but his Twitter would indicate that he thinks that my opinions are full of hate, and they're not. They're just full of judgment. Not the same thing. Waiting for a response. Okay, I gotta do something. It's dead air staring at the screen. I'll have to, Scott, get back to me in the chat if you see it there, but that's just how it goes. Oh man, I was really hoping Matt must have got hung up. Matt Trin must have gotten hung up at work, which that happens. That definitely happens. But it is a bummer. It is a bummer. I had questions for him. Matt, as you guys know, is going to be working on a couple of different projects. One is the McKinnon Chronicles, which is a space story, which looks really, really interesting, about a commander in the space kind of Star Trek kind of thing that goes wrong, and she has to figure out how to make it right. And also the Mythics, which is a modern fantasy. It looks really interesting stuff. Really, the trailer makes it look like a comedy. Oh man. Sorry, change the subject back to Hellboy. I am not in favor of Hellboy being a comedy overtly. I have read enough of the comics to know that is vastly contrary to the image of the thing. I mean, granted, we do have situations where Hellboy has a lot of comedy, gallows humor kind of stuff, of dealing humor, and I should say comedy. There's humor in Hellboy, of him dealing with his lot, of him dealing with the hard things around him, and that gallows humor like you have from cops or doctors. But the idea that it's a straight up comedy is pretty antithetical to Hellboy, and that's bad. I don't. If it is, I'm gonna have to watch this now. That troubles me. It troubles me greatly. We got 10 minutes to go on the stream, and no sign of Matt. And mad goodness, that has disturbed me. The idea that they may be trying to. I have to watch that. Okay, guys, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give this 30 seconds and see if I get more questions in the chat. And otherwise, I am going to cut out of here. And say goodnight a little early because Matt Trent has not made it, and I do not want to be. I don't have a whole lot else to say, so I'm not that interesting myself. That's very true. Very, very true. And movies that have comedy in it can still be very heavy stuff. We actually did see that with Guardians, especially the first one. A lot of comedy in it, but very heavy thematics. The second one had a lot of heavy thematics too, but it was more on the humor side, I think. But man, I tell you what, that is troubling, potentially. Once again, I do spend a lot of my time dissecting things I see, so that may be a thing for that. Man, I will post my thoughts on the Twitter after watching the trailer. I'm going to do that here quick, and we'll go from there. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We had a couple of you guys, maybe 3 or 4, who stayed for the entire stream and all of our yakking. For people that had to know about early, if you go back and watch it later, I want to thank you for coming anyway. Feel free to leave questions in the comments. I'm going to leave this one up on my Rhys stream from earlier this week. There's a good chance I'm going to may remove it. I got a copyright claim on the video from earlier this week because I put on the Aquaman trailer to run to the car to get my charger. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, how do we keep there from being dead air while I spend a minute running to the car like a crazy person? Got a copyright claim on it. Did not strike my channel. Didn't affect my channel. It said that if it ever gets monetized, it's just going to go to Warner Brothers, which I suppose is fair, except that it was like an hour stream, and that was like 2 minutes of it. Well, it may end up taking that down if I ever get enough subscribers to be monetized, but I'm not right now, so I guess tell all your friends to subscribe to Rhys to hear rambling about stuff. Yeah, I have not seen the new Spawn trailer. I did not even know that the trailer was out. I've heard rumors about it, but I hadn't seen that. So I guess I have homework from Scott to watch 2 trailers, and go from there. So I guess that's the story, guys. Okay, I'm going to pull the trigger on this one, guys. I really appreciate it coming out again. Enjoy next Thursday with Matt. I may dip into the chat for a little while then, but I will not be on stream. The Mattriarchy will continue on without me. I firmly believe that at this point, thanks to viewers like you. And oh, okay. Well, there you go. I guess I just have 1 trailer in homework. Matt tells me. Scott tells me. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I will see you guys around the Twitsphere between then. But thanks a ton. Have yourselves a great one.